Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, distinguished guests, and folks of all stripes, put your hands together for the Space Cadet Sports Podcast. Houston, we have Paul Salazar Jr.
Hey y'all, welcome back to the Space Cadet Sports Podcast, your Houston sports podcast for diehard Houston sports fans from a diehard Houston sports fan. I'm Paul Salazar Jr., your favorite diehard Astros fan podcaster. I'm an actor, movie nerd, self-appointed cookie philosopher, and creative multi-hyphenate. And of course, I'm a Houston native, and I have the receipts to prove it. I once had a drink at Drink Houston. That's right, I was there 1,000 years ago. I've spent the last decade or so as a comedy writer in Los Angeles, and now I'm podcasting. Yep, that's what happens once you hit 10 years out here. Gavin Newsom personally comes around to your house to ask if you think he's handsome, and they give you a podcast. Welcome to said podcast. This is what my brother Jesse calls the Paul Broad Podball blog. Hey, brother. A little Arrested Development for you there. A lot of people wonder what that is. It's Arrested Development. Check out spacecadetsports.substack.com for the full blog experience, or the full blog experience. How I pronounce that is completely up to you there. You know, I started Space Cadet Sports as a passion project, as a long-term fan, a die-hard fan of my Houston Astros. You know, sports media is infuriating when you're from Houston sometimes, because it comes from Los Angeles or New York. So I made this to be a kind of national media hate-a-thon for our teams, but also I try not to be a doom and gloomer. Houston sports fans, y'all know the type out there. We try to discuss the ins and outs of our teams here without too much homerism. Keyword try. We try to be reasonable and not too hot-takey or reactionary. Welcome. We're recording this transmission here in sunny Los Angeles, where I'm joined as always by my co-host and co-producer, the Roz to my Frasier. Carla, the dog, is here with me today. She's recovering from a little bit of a tummy ache. She may get on mic from time to time. For those of you who are frequent listeners to the podcast, you know that sometimes she has the hot takes on this podcast. You know, and I don't silence her. I let her say her piece. I know better than to tell her. You know, she doesn't have a voice on this podcast. She is a producer, of course, folks. Today on the episode, we have the return of Paul's Picks, as promised. In the previous podcast, I said I would be on here this week to return to Paul's Picks. You've heard of Jimmy the Greek. Well, welcome Paulie the Geek. That's right, I am here to help you make your picks in your Pick'em League. Now, obviously, this is a point in the podcast where I like to mention that this is also labeled comedy. This is a sports and comedy podcast. I think the comedy comes from my picks. We will get into how I've done this season. Before we get to that, if it is your first time here, welcome. If you are a frequent listener, you know I like to give a good day, mates, before I get too far into the podcast. For my Australian listeners, if you know an Australian, let them know we're out here doing this podcast for Houston-based sports fans. I'm sure there's a big Venn diagram there. I'm trying to boost my Australian listenership. It is an inside joke. I feel like I don't have time to explain it, so just go back and listen to all the podcasts so you can get all the inside jokes. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and move on because we have a lot to talk about here, folks, and that's because it's my bad for missing some big weeks here. I missed NFL Week 13, 14, and 15 on the podcast. I did do it in the Sleeper app in my Pick'ems League for my friend group, so we can kind of go back. I like to go back and tell you about my losses, what I got wrong, and I truly picked a fun week to stop recording my picks, because in week 13, I was 15-1, folks. I could have been dunking on all you clowns out there, boasting about my 13-1. The only pick that I didn't get right was the Philadelphia Baltimore game, where Philly beat Baltimore 24-19. I feel like a lot of people got that game wrong too. Obviously, not Philadelphians, not in Philly, but that almost was a perfect week for me there. And of course, I didn't do a podcast to talk about it. In week 14, I had a little bit of a tougher week. I was 10-3 in week 14. I still got my double-digit wins. I chose Tennessee to beat Jacksonville, which was a mistake. Obviously, that game was 10-6. I didn't expect fireworks, but I definitely expected to be wrong, and I was. The other game I completely got wrong. This one, I can blame the universe for Jacksonville, Tennessee, but this one I just got completely wrong. I chose Arizona to beat Seattle. I thought Arizona at home would make it a little closer. Seattle beat Arizona 30-18 in week 14 there. I got that one wrong. And then a really tough loss for me. I chose Buffalo to beat the Rams. And the Rams ended up winning 44-42. Congratulations to the LA Rams. Definitely, a great win for them, but a tough loss for me in week 14. And then just last week, I was 13-3. So, of course, the way we normally like to do it is I get on here and I tell you my picks, and then I come out and admit what I got wrong. Here, I can post, I guess, the sleeper receipts. I could do some screenshots to tell you I'm not lying to y'all out there. But I mean, I don't have anything to lose. I have no pride. I'm doing podcasts now, so so obviously I have nothing to lose. But if you demand receipts, I will do those screenshots for you out there. But last week I was 13-3. The first loss of the week I got wrong was obviously I've been picking Detroit a lot. I picked Detroit to beat Buffalo. Buffalo won 48-42. And you just got to respect Buffalo. They're a great team. I thought Detroit would win this one. I thought wrong. There's just no other way around it. It was close, but still, I just got that one wrong. Another one I got completely wrong. Well, I mean, obviously, all three I got wrong, but I'd like to say that was probably the closest of the three losses. The other two, I feel like I had no feel for. I chose the Chargers to beat the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers won 40-17. Obviously, I thought that Chargers defense was a little bit more serious than they were against the Buccaneers, at least. Did not expect that. Would not have got that one right. Buccaneers just put the hurt on the Chargers defense. And then the Green Bay Packers took it to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle lost that one at home. I thought Seattle being at home would make it a little bit closer. Obviously, I was wrong there. So those were those were my three losses of the week, and that brings us current to this week and up till tonight, where we have Thursday night football. So yeah, we're going to take just a really quick break, and we will get to the picks here. Okay, folks, so let's look at NFL Week 16 to see what I can do for y'all out there. So let's just, I guess really quickly, we did look back at my last couple of weeks. I had a running tally of my complete wins and losses on the podcast versus my complete wins and losses on the Sleeper app, because there were some that I changed on my Sleeper app, or famously I missed a whole week. I went on here I said my picks, but then I didn't set my picks in the app, so that got me some extra losses. But instead of trying to do all this hand wringing to be, this is how many wins and losses I've gotten on the podcast or whatever, this is how many wins and losses I've gotten in the league. I'm 149 to 91 overall in the league, so we're gonna try to improve that. We're gonna make some picks for this week, and we'll see how I do. We'll go forward next week. I'll come back and make my apologies for the ones I got wrong. So Thursday night, we're looking at the Denver Broncos at the LA Chargers. We're looking at the lines here and the over-under. These are the lines that I'm getting off of CBS as of the recording of this podcast. So obviously we can all have different information, different points that we're listening to, but this is where I'm getting it on Thursday afternoon. So we have the Chargers are favored at home by minus 2.5, and the over-under is 41.5 here. This is a bit of a stay away for me. A tough call for out of the gate. I'm trying to get these wins. I'm trying to eat these W's. But I think I'm gonna go traditional here and take the home team with the defense. Denver has been Wile E. Coyote kind of all season. I feel like I've been a little higher on the Chargers than perhaps I should have been. But I have a feeling no matter who I pick, the universe would spin in a way to make sure that I lost this one. So even though I'm saying this is a stay away, we're making the pick for the Chargers. And moving on to our Saturday games. That's right, we have some games on Saturday. Houston at Kansas City. Kansas City are home dogs here, plus 3.5 with an over-under of 41.5. Usually, folks, I do a separate segment where we talk about the Houston Texans after I make the picks, but let's just talk about them right here, just off the bat. It's so close to the beginning of this, we might as well talk about them. So the Texans check-in coming at you. We're not holding this segment. Can we finally shake the bad to mid offense allegations we've had all franchise long? When is that going to happen? Is this some kind of curse of David Carr or something? What in the name of Tony Banks do we have to do to get a good offense again? It's sad that I'm I feel like every couple seasons Texans fans start yearning for the days of Matt Schaub and Arian Foster. We were hoping that this offense, because on paper it was looking pretty solid, we're hoping this offense was going to be the one to kind of put it all together and finally start clicking. But it's been a tough season. Our defense is feisty. Our defense is there. But the thing that's holding us back right now is just has been an offense that just can't remain consistent. So we're hoping, that whether it's the offensive line, play calling, the coordinator, no matter what your scapegoat of the month or scapegoat of the week is, I'm really just ready for this offense to start clicking. With all of this talent, with GM Nick Caserio, I think he's kind of off the hook for putting this much talent together. We're just looking for some answers as a team. We got to celebrate the Texans winning the AFC South, but truly, when we had so much hopes, had such high hopes as a fan base at the beginning of this season, right now I don't think the hope meter is too high. We are kind of looking for this team to prove it, and I think this is kind of a good test of this team. Can they execute a game plan no matter who they're playing against, whether it's the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes or the Kansas City Chiefs without Patrick Mahomes? I think we need to see what this team brings, and hopefully it'll start to get consistent. It's going to be a tough game, truly, against an unstoppable team in Kansas City. But, they could possibly be without their lead wizard there with Patrick Mahomes. I do think without Patrick Mahomes, the Texans should win. But this season, I do have a long list of things that the Texans should have done. So, I'm picking the Texans to win this. I think that even with Patrick Mahomes, with this defense, if this offense is executing the way that I know they can, they should be able to win this game. But should is a tough thing, and hope is a tough thing. I'm still having hope for these Texans, but they really are in prove it mode to me. They need to prove that they are ready this year. If they're not ready this year, I'm not calling the whole season a failure. I thought Super Bowl aspirations at the beginning of the year were a little too high for my hopes, a little too rich for my blood. I'm not trying to say I wasn't hopeful they'd be good. But, I'm just saying the team isn't a bust and the season isn't a bust if they're not as successful as we would have hoped they would have been. As long as they're building in success and continuing to fight every week and learning from their mistakes, I think this can be a very productive season. But this team this week is kind of where the rubber meets the road. No matter who is playing, how they will go and compete to get that win is going to be very, very telling. I'm still choosing them to win. I'm just very nervous and don't want to be heartbroken here. We're going to go ahead and move away from our Houston Texans and back to Paul's picks here. We are looking at the next set of teams, I should say, the next game here. Pittsburgh at Baltimore. The Baltimore Ravens are favored at home, -6.5. The over-under is 45.5. Baltimore is heavy favorites against the Steelers at home, but I feel a little hesitant with this line. I'm much more conservative, I guess, because I worry it could be a closer one than this, or it could even be an upset with the Steelers, with the way the Ravens can kind of have had some struggles this season being a complete team, whereas the Steelers are just slowing the games down, mucking things up, and winning games no matter how hard, no matter who they're playing against, and no matter what they have to do to win it, I feel like. But while I like Pittsburgh, I still can't pick them to win this game. I have to go with the Ravens here, but I'm unsure, so this is a bit of a stay away, but we're picking the Ravens and moving on. The next game is a battle for Ohio here, with the Cleveland Browns playing at the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals are favored at home, -7.5, with an over-under of 47. I feel like Cincinnati is a lock to win this, but because it's these two teams, I feel like I'm going to get got in some kind of way. I trust Cleveland to go against my picks, and I also trust Cincinnati to spoil my picks just as well. So I guess they both Uno reverse each other, and they make my pick right. I'm not sure. I'm not going to think too hard on this or get too much into my logic brain and try to reverse jinx anything. I'm going to pick Cincinnati, and we'll see how foolish I feel next week on the podcast. The next game is the New York Giants at the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are favored at home, -8.5, with an over-under of 42. Yikes. It's sad that if it's the Giants versus any competent football team, you just immediately go with the other team and move on. But here we are, choosing Atlanta and moving on. Favored -8.5 at home. That's Paul's pick of the week territory right there. Every week I give you Paul's pick of the week of who I think is most likely going to win the game this week, And I also give you Carla's Dawg of the week. That's right, Carla picks her Dawg of the week based off of my underdog picks in the week. The way we do that, we'll get to it. I want you to be anticipating what that possibly could be. You new listeners, you return listeners, you definitely know what that is. We're going to go ahead and pick Atlanta and move on to the next game. The next game is New England at Buffalo. Buffalo is heavily favored at home, -14 here at home against the Patriots. The over-under is 46.5, so it's not going to be close, and it's going to be a lot of points. Vegas is feeling strong about this. I am too. Buffalo is on a roll and at home. This game might feel a little bit like batting practice or something like that, folks. Lock it in. Buffalo wins here. Another potential Paul's pick of the week. Moving on to the next game, we have Arizona at Carolina. Carolina is playing home dogs here, even though they're Cats. They're plus 4.5 at home. 47 is the over-under. I think Arizona should take care of this game on the road in Carolina. Easy, but a 47 over-under, and these defenses tell us it's going to be a high-scoring affair. If Arizona makes mistakes, Carolina can make it an interesting one, folks. But I don't trust Carolina can make less mistakes than Arizona, I guess is where I'm going here. So we're picking Arizona, we're picking the Cardinals, and moving on to the next game, Detroit at Chicago. Chicago is plus 6.5 at home. Heavy, or big home dogs, I should say. 48 is the over-under, and they think there's going to be some points here, folks. We're going to say Detroit. Moving on, once again, Detroit, for those of you who didn't listen. Tennessee at Indianapolis. The Colts are favored at home, minus 3.5, with a 42.5 over-under. Oh boy. I know you guys were excited for some football this week. This AFC South slugfest really comes at a time where it barely matters. I think Indianapolis should win this game, but boy, do I not want to watch this game. Picking Indy. They're a better team. They're at home. Moving on. The LA Rams are playing the New York Jets. The Jets are home and home dogs, plus 3.5, with 46.5 being the over-under. The Jets have been some kind of Black Mirror joke this season. The Rams should take this one, but obviously Vegas is saying it's closer than maybe my confidence against the Jets is. So I'm going with the Rams, going with LA, but a little hesitancy here. Perhaps this is more of a stay away than I think. Philadelphia at Washington. Washington is are playing the home dogs here, plus 3.5 at home. 45.5 is the over-under. I'd really love for the Commanders to win at home, but my practice of betting against Philly hasn't been good for my win-loss records this season. I'll admit it. I'll say it right here on the podcast. I'm going with logic and picking Philadelphia, but in my heart, I think Washington is mucking this game up enough to make it a stay away at least. Picking Philly, moving on. Minnesota at Seattle. Seattle is not favored here. They are plus 3 at home. The 43.5 over-under says it might be a little low scoring, but this a bit of a defensive matchup here perhaps. I've been high on both of these teams the second half of the season, so now I have to make a real tough choice in picking one over the other. Even on the road, I think Minnesota finds a way to win here. I think of the picking the coaches, picking the talent, I think I choose both Minnesota's coaching and talent, so we're going with Minnesota. The next game on the list, Jacksonville at the Las Vegas Raiders. The Vegas Raiders are favored at home in Vegas, minus 1, with a 40.5 over under. Wow, folks, I guess not only am I choosing the dog in Vegas, but I'm choosing Jacksonville. This takes away all of my credibility, I guess, but also, how could you choose Vegas in this instance? Even Vegas couldn't choose Vegas here with that line, an embarrassingly low under-over. I'm picking Jacksonville and scratching my head and wondering why, but you look at what's on paper, and I feel like it's not that bad of a choice. Definitely unsure here, picking the underdog. We're moving on to San Francisco at Miami. Miami is got the reverse line there. They are plus 1 at home with a 44.5 over under. This shrug from Vegas gets me pulling my hair for sure. And my response, I truly don't know this one, and I feel like it's a coin flip. I wish truly right now, I wish I had a better feel for either one of these teams, but I kind of don't. And even where I thought I understood these teams, they have proven that I don't really understand them, or maybe I've fallen for some kind of narrative about them. So I feel like right now I have no feel for them. But admitting that, it's just the first step of the issue here, folks. I have to pick a team here, so I'm picking San Francisco. I'm saying they take this one because they're the less broken of the two teams at this juncture. We're picking San Francisco hesitantly and moving on to Tampa Bay at Dallas. Dallas is home dogs, +4 at home. Tampa Bay is favored here. 48.5 is the over-under, giving us the biggest number for over-under this week. Lots of points in Dallas, but I think Tampa Bay runs away with it in the end. I'm picking Tampa Bay and not overthinking this one. And that brings us to Monday night, folks. Monday night, we have the New Orleans Saints at the Green Bay Packers. And folks, this is the biggest line of the week. Green Bay is favored -14.5. The over-under is 42.5. Green Bay is heavily favored here to win this game. And finally, the biggest line of the week, the biggest one for last year. Good Lord, I guess we just all feel good about Green Bay here. I guess we're all picking Green Bay, unless you're from the good state of Louisiana. So yeah, I'm not too shocking here that I'm picking Green Bay and moving on. And that makes us move on to Paul's pick of the week and Carla's dog of the week. So we don't have a lot of options here, folks. I think, maybe I'm just getting my feet set again here. I don't have too many options here to choose from. But with Paul's pick of the week, we're looking at Green Bay, we're looking at Buffalo. Obviously both of these teams are heavily favored to win. I'm going with Green Bay here. I feel like they're both home teams. They're both favored at home. But I guess I don't know why. Of the two matchups, Green Bay just seems like a more strong win here. I guess Vegas is saying that too, but it is by a little. But I am picking Green Bay as Paul's pick of the week. Lock that in, folks. And then we have a Carla's dog of the week. So the way we normally do this is I get treats. That's right. I say the T word, and I make a little indentation on the treats so that I can tell what team is represented by what treat, and Carla chooses her choice of the underdog to make it her pick. Since we've been doing this, Carla's dog of the week has been hitting a lot more, so that's what we're doing here. Even when there is just one option in this week's case, we still give her offering so that she blesses the pick. Carla's dog of the week is, believe it or not, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Oh no, that's all I can say. I'm sorry, Carla. Hopefully this offering means you bless my pick and my logic. But I'm not feeling. I feel like she might not be feeling too good about it. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back. All right, folks, welcome back. Let's talk a little Rockets. Let's talk a little Astros before we wrap this podcast up. Obviously, we just did a State of the Union, so, I'm not going to go too far into Rockets or Astros right now. We're just kind of briefly talking about them in case anybody missed a previous podcast, but also just doing a call to action. If anybody out there wants to let me know of your takes, or, if you want to let me know what you're thinking, or if you disagree, see things differently, if you wholeheartedly agree, there's a lot of things going on with these teams right now. I encourage you to call in, leave me a respectful message. Maybe you could, if it isn't too crude, if it's respectful, it can make the air. You could do that at speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Once again, that's speakpipe.com/Space Cadet Sports. Or you could check out the Substack. The Substack is spacecadetsports.substack.com, where you can put your email into that field. You get every podcast, every post, every article, every meme emailed directly to you for free. If you're like me, you could download the Substack app, search Space Cadet Sports, say that you want notifications instead of emails. You get nice notifications on your iPad or your phone, and you could subscribe that way completely for free. obviously, you can support this podcast there on the Substack if you are so kind. If you're looking for a way to make my holiday season, you definitely can help pay for some of these treats for Carla by making a donation to the podcast there. This is a passion project. But yeah, we appreciate everybody. Whether you are subscribing and checking us out or whether you are donating, either way, this podcast is deeply grateful for every listener and everybody out there that supports us in so many different ways. So just wanted to extend that gratitude this holiday season for sure. But let's move on. Let's talk about our Houston Rockets. The NBA Cup story wasn't exactly what we had been hoping for, but this team has been so fun to watch. It's the first time in a while. Their offense at times can be a little tough to watch, absolutely, but this team is making noise again, and it's so fun to see them. I think it would have been incredible to win that NBA Cup, but almost in this way, I think it keeps them hungry. It keeps them looking for solutions to some of their offensive woes. I think in a way it's keeping them hungry. And this team, I think if it got too much success, not that everybody would get lazy or anything, but it could solidify maybe some bad habits that the team still has. But that's conjecture. That's maybe just me trying to put some rose-colored glasses on a bad situation anyway, so that conjecture, that I'm admitting that's reaching a little bit, maybe reaching for a take. Even if I have hot takes on the podcast here, at least I'll admit it. I think at least the way I'm looking at it, the way I'm trying to spin it in my own head, is that this keeps them hungry. This keeps them looking for answers. This keeps them improving as a team and as a coaching staff. So we're hopeful that these Rockets are going to continue to have a great season here. I feel like they're figuring a lot of things out. Tonight they are playing the New Orleans Pelicans. Sunday, Monday, they have a back-to-back on the road against the Raptors and the Hornets. That's where your Rockets are right now. Alpi Shingun, he won one of the All Cup player awards when they named the All Cup team. Obviously, this team, it might not have been exactly what we wanted for the end of the cup race, but they still made some noise. They're improving. They're getting respect out there, and they beating Golden State for the first time since 2020 was a big thing for the pride of the team. So these little wins, these little victories, we're just hoping it builds to more success and more wins for this team going forward. We can check in with that later. Let me know what you think at the Substack or on SpeakPipe. Let me know, folks. I definitely want to know for some Rockets fans out there. I'm hopeful to get some Rockets fans on the podcast. I have some friends that have lots of big opinions. I recently mentioned that I went back to help take care of my grandpa recently in Houston. I missed out on kind of like a boys' night. They went to the Rockets-Clippers game while the Rockets were in town here in L.A. I definitely, they were really bummed that I couldn't make it. Don't get me wrong, that's just how the schedule goes sometimes. But yeah, I was hoping one of the boys from that got to go see that game will come on the podcast. So I'll let you know, when they are able to come on the pod. It'll be a fun, interesting episode. The next thing we want to talk about here are your Houston Astros. We're talking about a fun thing to see in the Houston Rockets. We'll file this away and not fun things to see. It has been a tough week for Astros fans with, the Texans and Rockets are trying to rise from cellar dwellers and mediocrity with hopes of more. But at the expense of our beloved Astros, it seems like the Astros are taking steps back, for fans that are, perhaps haven't been paying that much attention. Out of nowhere, Kyle Tucker is traded. We don't have, Bregman signed quite yet. What is happening in the Astros front office this winter. A lot of Astros fans have been asking. If you have been following along with me, if you're a space cadet, you've been following along with the journey here at the podcast, you know that there has been speculation. You know that I was talking about how the Bregman contract deeply affects the Tucker contract and the Fromber contract. I did not anticipate them trading Tucker. I thought, if anything, I don't, we can go back and check the receipts, but I thought, if anything, Fromber might have been traded. It's really a business move that I don't agree with. I feel like GM Dana Brown has said that he didn't want to trade Tucker. A lot of people are pointing at that and kind of roasting Dana Brown in the media for saying something like that and then doing it, but I think that is something that I point to say that this is an owner decision. Jim Crane is looking at it and being like, well, we need to get some value from Tucker before we just let him walk away for nothing. But a player like Tucker, one more season of him is not nothing. I don't understand that move unless you knew Bregman was signed. I still don't understand that move. I've said so much in the previous podcast. I think, yes, you do get something for Tucker as opposed to letting him leave for nothing. I do understand that business wise. I do think Isaac Paredes, he can be a really good hitter at Dyken Park. But it's just a tough pill to swallow, Tucker leaving, and, Bregman potentially signing with another team. The Astros in negotiations with third baseman Nolan Ariando with the St. Louis Cardinals. Big news with him not wanting to waive a no-trade clause going to New York, the Yankees, or to the Astros. So that negotiation fell through. We're really hoping here at the podcast, all the Space Cadets here are hoping that this is posturing, that this, just like the Tucker decision, that this is just business. A lot of people are saying in this Tucker trade hangover that the Astros, I've been seeing a lot of articles like, can the Astros compete? Which I thought was wild to see a couple different articles reflect that sentiment. So we have a new segment on the podcast here, the last segment of the podcast, a segment we're going to call Hold Your Horses. So this is the Hold Your Horses segment. We have somebody in the studio who wanted to talk to us. Welcome to Hold Your Horses.
Well, I keep seeing these posts and articles about if the Astros can compete. Let's get one thing straight. They can. We've just been spoiled by some amazing rosters, and now that we're more of a regular major league roster, hopefully just for a couple weeks until we sign Alex Bregman. But a lot of people are frankly freaking out. I say let them cook. Hopefully, all of this Nolan Ariando hooey is just city slickers, trading rumors, and we'll re-sign Bregman and start to feel a bit better about this roster. But we're still waiting for our owner to sign Bregman instead of out here trying to trade our outfield away. I guess all you can have is hope. But it would be nice if we re-sign Bregman. Just saying that out there to Jim Crane.
All right. Well, yeah, I completely agree. I completely understand you. I do think that the Astros can still compete. I do think that we have been spoiled by riches, but yeah, if this is hopefully just negotiations, if the Astros still have Bregman, this is not a concern. I'm not too worried. But if the Astros are unable to re-sign Alex Bregman, this podcast and the Astros front office will be having to do a lot of pivoting to figure out what this next season is going to be like. It's easy for me because for me, I'm just looking at projections and trying to figure out how I feel about this team. But the Astros, I feel like, have really shot themselves in the foot with trading Tucker away before locking up Bregman. I don't know. And to me, I don't think this is a Dana Brown thing. I think it's a Jim Crane thing. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you disagree with me or if you disagree with I didn't get to your name, sir. The cowboy here from Hold Your Horses. Hold your horses. What was your name, man? You can just call me Sam. Okay, Sam. So if you disagree with me or Sam, just let me know. You can go to the Substack, spacecadetsports.substack.com, or the SpeakPipe, and that's speakpipe.com/spacecadetsports, and the Substack is spacecadetsports.substack.com, and that's going to do it for this transmission, Space Cadets. Thank you for listening to this podcast. Very much appreciate that. Please, wherever you are listening to this podcast on, smash those buttons for me. Like, rate, review, subscribe, share, bop it, kick it, skip it, all of those things. Please smash those buttons for me. It's very much appreciated. If you would, please check out the Substack once again, spacecadetsports.substack.com. You could reach out on social media at Space Cadet Sports on Instagram and Threads. Let me know where you're at. We can reach out to you there. Or if you want to reach out to me personally, that's at Paul Salazar Jr. on all social media platforms. I'm active on all the cool ones. Let me know your opinions. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you're panicking, folks out there in H-Town. Please share this with other H-Town hustlers, other people that need to hear the good news of Houston sports out there. Please share this podcast with them. And if you would be so kind, check out my other podcast projects. If you've gotten this far, perhaps you like my ridiculousness as well. You could check out my comedy podcast and Saturday Night Live podcast. That's Sunday morning pre-recorded. That's available where all fine podcasts can be found. Or I do have a cookie podcast as well. You could check out Paul Eats a Cookie, which is going to have a holiday episode coming up soon. Thank you so much for listening, folks. I appreciate all of you out there in podcast land. Remember to be the best that you can be. Keep your head up, kid. And as always, vamos Houston.